true that that publication represents the view of nation. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you watch channels nowadays, they will tell you the views expressed by individuals on this program does not represent the views of China as proper. It is possible that we will go deep into this publication. Nation newspaper will deny that that's the view of the reporter there. But, Mr. Speaker, we cannot leave this type of thing lying there. We must find a way of needling the Nation newspaper so they'll be able to fish out whoever is there. If it means suing the person, we'll do that. So, we don't require that type of allegation here because most of us, especially you, is integrity driven. And if you can survive other minor allegations in this house, to the extent of getting to this level, Mr. Speaker, I cannot tolerate this type of publication. I therefore suggest, Mr. Speaker, that we refer to ethics and privileges so that I sit to the bottom of the order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bila, from this row.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My very honorable colleagues, Mark Tese Bila, I represent Way East, Way West Federal Constituency of Benue State. My honorable colleagues, I am indeed quite embarrassed, upset, and saddened that the National Assembly of Nigeria once again is under siege. I think we should, as an institution, realize that there seems to be a premeditated attempt from certain quarters to always cast aspersion on this institution. With regards to this issue, it is important for Nigerians and all of us colleagues to note that this sequence they are talking about is the sequence that has been used most in the history of Nigeria's electoral process. If this institution, in its wisdom, as the institution that represents the people, has decided that let us revert to what has been used mostly, the statistics are there, the details are there for everybody to know. Perhaps, maybe some of us don't even realize that sequence being proposed in this electoral amendment has been what has been most prevalent in previous elections in this country. But the fourth estate of the realm, unfortunately, has allowed themselves to be used by certain quarters to always try to cast aspersion on the National Assembly as the problem of this nation, when in reality, this institution is the bastion of democracy. Nigerians need to wake up to the reality that this institution is beyond individuals, is beyond those of us who are currently here. And if democracy is indeed going to be entrenched in this nation, then they need to start to understand the importance of the National Assembly. It is either somebody is being sponsored to put a banner on the road to say National Assembly is subverting the budget process, or they are being sponsored on TV to say that the National Assembly is being manipulated to change the sequence. I agree with one of my colleagues who has said that this is a clear case of defamation and some punitive action needs to be taken. As the committee, it has been referred to handle this issue. I think we as an institution need to start to bring certain individuals and institutions and organizations to justice so that it will serve as a deterrent in future. While other media organizations are doing investigative reporting, discovering what is going on in Libya, our own media institutions are banning gossip and falsehood. It is an embarrassment to the fourth estate of the realm. It's a shame on them. And I think this institution needs to rise up collectively to protect the interests of democracy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I think this matter is almost overflogged because if the issue is as rightly put by, not rightly, as put by Honorable Abonta, then I think we should even thank the press. Because from his presentation, it's like it's been alleged that the minister, in consort with some governors, are planning to bribe the National Assembly. Not that money has been shared.
No, they said it has been
because that was what Honorable Abonta said. So if that's the issue, it's like they're raising a red flag warning to us that, look, money is coming on. We should be careful. So, but I don't know.
No, they said it has been shared.
Leader.
They said it has been shared.
Hey, Abonta, that's the position.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm deeply saddened that we have spent the first 30 minutes a day before we go on Easter vacation, when we have so much on our plate discussing an issue such as this. But it is an issue that must be discussed. Mr. Speaker, I take a very different slant. I take a different position from Honorable Abonta's slant. All it takes, as we know, is to throw something out there and then put you on the defensive. And that is something that at this point in time in our political history, we need to put a stop to. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, let me make it abundantly clear that bribery and corruption is a criminal offense, and it is punishable by imprisonment. This is not a case for ethics and privileges. One, I don't think we are covered under our rules to investigate matters such as this. The jurisdiction of the Ethics and Privileges Committee is to investigate members internally and what they've done, code of conduct and the rest of it. This is an allegation coming from outside, coming from the fourth realm. And in one fell swoop, has indicted governors, indicted ministers, and indicted every single member of this house. Number two, you cannot send this to the Ethics and Privileges because every member of that committee has also been indicted. So, you become a judge in your own cause. This is a matter that is ripe, Mr. Speaker, for litigation. This is a matter that is ripe for litigation. By the time you slap hefty penalties and damages on those who should otherwise be conducting what they call investigative journalism, I think we will see a stop to this incessant attack on this institution. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe it's time, and I want this House to seriously take a decision now on a class action suit on defamation. The only defense in a case like this, the only legal defense is truth. That is the only defense that can be put forward in a court of law. Truth. You don't speculate on a matter that can be so damaging and injurious to someone's character. It is time, as people hold us accountable and responsible, there must be a concomitant responsibility and accountability on the part of those who report news. When Donald Trump was talking about fake media, fake news, we all had a good laugh. But that thing apparently is true. This is fake news if ever I saw or heard one. So, honorable colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I believe it is time, like I said, for us to nail this thing, to nail this coffin, and determine whether or not we will sit back. Again, I'm piggybacking on Honorable Saleh's suggestion. We need your permission. We need the House's go ahead. Let us file a class action lawsuit. And if anybody has received any money, and I'm not aware of this, it will come out. But we cannot send this to Ethics and Privileges because we will be investigating ourselves.
Silence, please.
So therefore, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is unfortunate, like I said, that we are debating this at this time. There's so many issues on the order paper. And I want to take this opportunity to talk to the press. They're right here. They're right here. Punch, This Day Nation, the whole lot of them. Perhaps it is time we do a reaccreditation those who we allow into these hallowed chambers to come out and be reporting and spewing, and I'm sorry to use the word garbage, all in the name of journalism. They have their own code of conduct. And if they cannot abide by their own code of conduct, there's a difference between speculative journalism and investigative journalism, especially when it is a matter that can affect the character of every single person here, both individually and collectively. We're in an election year, Mr. Speaker. We're all going home for Easter. Many of our constituents are going to read these reports and believe them to be true. And they're going to ask you for their own share of the money. What money? That is my question. So, honorable colleagues, I think it is time we do the right thing. Forget the ethics and privilege, because it's not within the jurisdiction of that committee. Let us take this matter where it belongs. It is in our constitution. When you are defamed, because this is what has happened. When an institution or an individual is defamed, you go to court and find out the veracity or the truth of the matter. And I believe, because we know that this is not true, it will stop a lot of this speculative journalism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Last contributor of the Chairman, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, I've listened to this debate, and I find it slightly amusing that we have been ensnared into taking so much of our time to talk on this issue. Mr. Speaker, make no mistake about it. Like Speaker Bankole used to say, they don't like you out there. And if you think that the whole of this debate will dissuade them from that perception, you are lying. I agree entirely that it's reckless to go out there and write the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. But my opinion, my view, Mr. Speaker, is that simply ignore it. I was on TV the other day with somebody, not true. I was on TV the other day with somebody. I was on TV the other day with somebody who had aspired to be in the House of Representatives and never made it. And we were on a discussion program, and what did he say? He said the worst assembly in the history of Nigeria is the 8th Assembly. That's what he said. And I shocked him. I didn't respond to that statement. I completely ignored it, because he wanted to ensnare me into anger, to say stuff I shouldn't say. Don't ever believe that because you are angry, that's out there, those who have held a position against you will change their minds. I think let's focus on our job and go on. If you believe that this is not true, convince yourself and let's move on. Because if we start to be distracted, tomorrow another such story will come up, and before long you have the 8th National Assembly having several suits out there against people. And that would be a distraction if you ask me. So my opinion, the leader has already said, and I agree with him entirely, that was what I was looking through. Ethics and privileges is not for this situation. He is suggesting a suit. I am saying, Mr. Speaker, that let's ignore the suit and move on with our job. Thank you.
Well, what we can do is simple. Honorable Dambaram has alleged that privilege has been broken, that of the entire House. And we don't have any other committee apart from ethics and privileges. Even if we are going to court, what nature of action are we going to maintain in court? We need an advice. It's not for us at this forum to determine that. So really it's the ethics and privileges that will look into the complaint of the matter to determine whether his privilege is being breached or the privilege of the institution has been breached, and what course of action is open to us. If there's no remedy from the ethics committee, let them determine that it is only through the courts that we can get a remedy, and what kind of action for us to maintain in the courts. I think that should be the decision of the ethics committee, and if they so advise us that it's only through the courts that we'll get relief, then we'll proceed. So for a member to complain that his privilege is broken and say, oh, we can't do anything about it, or advise him to go to court, I don't think is right. We have to look into it and get the advice from the ethics committee. If If they so decide that no privilege has been breached, we abandon the matter there, they will recommend to the House, and then we move on. So the matter is referred to Ethics and Privileges Committee. So we move on to the second business of the day, which is presentation report of the conference. Pardon? Well, I thought you have done the reading of the bill. Honorable members, the first business of the day is presentation of 35 bills. I now invite the clerk to read the short titles.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, Federal Medical Center Abakaliki Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Abekuta Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Asaba Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Azare Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Bida Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Burning Kebbi Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Burnum Kudu Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Ebuta Meta Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Gombe Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Yola Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Gusau Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Ado Ekiti Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Jalingo Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Katsina Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Kefi Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Lokoja Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Makodi Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Guru Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Owere Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center O Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Umahia Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Medical Center Yanagua Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. National Council of Nigerian Bashin Establishment etc. Act Repeal Bill 2018, first reading. National Committee on Geographical Names Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Remuneration of former presidents and heads of state and other ancillary matters Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. National Board for Technical Education Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Federal Polytechnics Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Statutory Corporations Modification etc. Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Medical Negligence Litigation Bill 2018, first reading. Nigeria Immunization Trust Fund Bill 2018.
Order in the House.
Reading.
Order.
University of Oyo Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading.
The legal caucus of
Federal
Kano
University
behind
of
me.
Technology,
Disperse.
Land and Air Transport Oyo Establishment Bill 2018, first reading. Public Complaints Commission Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. National Orientation Agency Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading. Nigerian Communications Commission Act Amendment Bill 2018, first reading.
Honorable colleagues, second business of the day is presentation report of Conference Committee on a bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry for related matters, standing the name of Honorable Victor Nwokolo. Honorable Nwokolo is now invited to present the report.
Honorable Speaker, my respected colleagues, my name is Honorable Victor Nwokolo, member representing Ika Northeast, Ika South Federal Constituency of Delta State. I do rise to move that the House do receive the report of the Conference Committee on a bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and further related matters, HBS 477, 878, and 1043. I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Gololo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Highly respected colleagues. Mohammed Gololo is my name. I'm representing the good people of Gama and from Bauchi State. I rise to second the bill as ably moved by Honorable Victor. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Sunday Adepoju, be careful. Honorable Wokolo, please proceed and lay the report. Honorable members, the third business of the day is presentation report of Committee on Tertiary Education Service and Bill for an Act to provide easy access to higher education for Nigerians through interest-free loans from Nigerian Education Bank established in the Act with a view to provide education for all Nigerians and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Aminu Suleiman. Honorable members who recall the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 31st March 2016. The report is ready for presentation. Honorable Suleiman is invited to present it. Honorable Suleiman, 1 year, almost 1 year, exactly to the referral to your committee.
Move to the next one. Honorable Speaker, I have no power to tell you why I am unable, but I accept that it is rather late. Mr. Speaker, I am from Kano State, and my name is Comrade Aminu Suleiman. I represent Pagi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I move that the House do receive the report of the Committee on Tertiary Education and Services on a bill for an act to provide for easy access to higher education for Nigerians through interest-free loan from Nigerian Education Bank established in the Act with a view to provide education for all Nigerians and for related matters. I move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable UK.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Azoro Ikeri. I represent Agwata Federal Constituency. I stand to second the bill, second reading of the bill, as so moved by, the report, to let the report as so moved by my colleague. I so support.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Suleiman, please proceed and lay the report. First order of the day is commencement of debate on general principles of Bill for an Act to repeal the Advertisement Practitioners Regulation, etc. Act and enact the Advertising Practitioners Registration Licensing, etc. Bill for the establishment of Council of Advertising Practitioners as an apex regulatory authority for the Nigerian advertising profession and practice to make provision for the regulation and control of the practice of the profession and business of advertising to ensure the protection of the general public and consumers, promote local content while entrenching best international practices, and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Garba I. Mohammed. Honorable members who recall that the bill was read the first time on Thursday, 30th November 2017. I now invite Honorable Mohammed to move the bill be now read the second time. Chairman, Rules and Business, it appears Honorable Garba is now on the floor.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Garba Mohammed is not available to move this bill. I therefore move that we step down item number 1 on the order paper. I so move.
Item number 1 on the order paper, step down by leave of the House. Second order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of Bill for an Act to establish Federal College of Agriculture, OKEHI, ECHE, to provide full-time courses leading to the awards of diploma, higher national diploma in agriculture and allied fields, and be responsible for the due administration of the college and for related matters, standing in the name of Honorable Jerome Amadi Eke. Honorable members recall that the bill was read the first time on Thursday, 8 February 2018. Now I invite Honorable Eke to move that the bill be now read the second time.
Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, my name is Honorable Jerome Amadi Eke. I represent the chair on Moma Federal Constituency of Rivers State. A bill for an act to establish Federal College of Agriculture, OKEHI, to provide full-time courses leading to the award of diploma, higher national diploma in agriculture and allied fields, and the responsibility for the due administration of the college and for the related matters, House Bill 1325. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nana, good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Goodluck Opia. I represent Ohaje Goma, Ubuta, and Doru West Federal Constituency. I'm from Imo State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion moved by my colleague, Honorable Jerome, as hereby second.
Honorable Jerome, please lead the debate.
My sincere appreciation for this wonderful opportunity this morning to present this bill that seeks to establish College of Agriculture in Okenye in Echie. My respected colleagues, you will recall that this same bill was read for the first time on the 8th of February 2018. You will agree with me that indeed the bill is a simple and straightforward one that seeks to establish a College of Agriculture, Okenye Echie. Echie local government area is the second largest in Rivers State, and it is referred as a food basket of the state. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, may I use the opportunity equally to let you know that the Echie local government is a local government that hosted over 250 oil wells, and the need to diversify agriculture is very, very, very important. To cut down wastages in crops and into mechanized farming, to enhance massive food production and introduce harvested crops into secondary production for export merchandise, the bill has become not only timely but expedient. In the light of the foregoing, I therefore urge all my colleagues to support this bill to go for second reading. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's a very straightforward bill, so I'll put the question. The question is that bill be now read second time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Clerks invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to establish Federal College of Agriculture, Okehi, Etse, to provide full-time courses leading to awards of diploma, higher national diploma in agriculture and allied fields, and be responsible for the due administration of the college and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill referred to Committee on Tertiary Education Services. Third order of the day is commencement of debate on the general principles of Bill for an Act to amend the Border Communities Development Agency Act, Chapter B10, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to clearly specify states to be represented on the governing board of the agency from the 6 geopolitical zones and for related matters standing in the name of Honorable Benjamin Wayo. Honorable members will recall that the bill was read the first time on Thursday, 8 February 2018. I now invite Honorable Wayo to move that the bill be now read the second time.
Come and use this.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am Honorable Benjamin Yorembe Wayo. I represent the good people of Kwande Ushongo Federal Constituency. I am from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, move that a bill for an act to amend the Border Communities Development Agency Act, Cap B10, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to clearly specify states to be represented on the governing board of the agency from the 6 geopolitical zones and for related matters be read the second time.
Honorable Shaka Yokule.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker. Ibrahim Ayokunle Isiaka is my name. I represent the very good people of Ifo, Ewekoro Federal Constituency. Honorable colleagues, I'm from Ogun State. I rise, Mr. Speaker, to second the bill as ably proposed and moved by Honorable Ayo. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, sir.
Honorable Ayo, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. This bill seeks to amend the Border Communities Development Establishment Act of 2004 to clearly specify states to be represented on the governing board of the agency from the 6 geopolitical zones. Mr. Speaker, Section 2 of the bill seeks to create a proviso in subsection 3, 1J as follows. Provided that such other 6 persons to represent each of the 6 geopolitical zones shall be so nominated only from states with international boundary in the respective zones. My dear colleagues, this is a straightforward amendment that seeks to secure effective and actual representation of the border communities in the country on the board of the agency to ensure inclusivity and fairness in the development of the border communities across the country. Such states, Mr. Speaker, with international boundaries from the border communities to be so represented on the board of the agency include Akwa Ibom, Benue, Adamawa, Boronon, Jigawa, Katsina, Sokoto, Niger, Kebbi, Cross River, Yobe, Taraba, Kwara, Oyo, and Ogun State. Mr. Speaker, this is because if you look at the existing act gives the President the powers to nominate 6 additional persons on the board from the 6 geopolitical zones. And this bill seeks to narrow down the powers of the President in making such appointment. And this is because the states with international borders are directly affected. They are directly affected. And therefore, it will only be reasonable to find people from those states to be on the board. For instance, Mr. Speaker, in the North Central, we have Plateau and Nasarawa State and Kogi State do not have international borders. And it will be unreasonable to appoint somebody from Plateau State or Nasarawa State or Kogi State to be on the board whereby their states have no international borders with other countries. It will only be reasonable to appoint people from states that do have international borders with other countries. This is what this bill seeks to achieve. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I urge you to support this bill that it pass through the second reading. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's a straightforward bill, so I'll put the question. And the question is the bill be now read the second time. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk is invited to read the long title of the bill.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, a bill for an act to amend the Border Communities Development Agency Act, Chapter B10, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to clearly specify states to be represented on the governing board of the agency from the 6 geopolitical zones and for related matters. Second reading.
Bill is referred to Committee on Special Duties. Fourth order of the day, honorable colleagues, a motion on rescission of 11 bills passed by the National Assembly pursuant to Order Rule 12, and Order 9, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, standing in the name of Honorable E.Y. Okejev. Honorable Okejev is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okejev, I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. This is a motion for rescission on 11 bills passed by the National Assembly, pursuant to Order 1, Rule 12, and Order 9, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives. The House notes that the under-mentioned bills were passed by the National Assembly and transmitted to the President for assent. 1. Federal Competition and Consumers Protection Bill 2018. 2. The Franchise Bill 2018. 3. Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2018. 4. National Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science Establishment Bill 2018. 5. Nigerian Academy of Science Establishment Bill 2018. 6. Corporate Manslaughter Bill 2018. 7. National Assembly Budget and Research Office Establishment Bill 2018. 8. National Child Protection and Enforcement Agency Establishment Bill 2018. 9. Federal Capital Territory Civil Service Commission Establishment Bill 2018. 10. Animal Health and Husbandry Technologies Registration Board Establishment Bill 2018. And finally, 11. Conference Committee Report on Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit Bill 2018. Aware that the clerk to the National Assembly withdrew the above bills from the President, convinced of the need to reconsider the bills with all necessary amendments, the House therefore resolves to commit the 11 bills to the Committee of the Whole for reconsideration. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Honorable Suleiman Garo.
Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am from Kano State and my name is Comrade Aminu Suleiman. I represent Pagi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to second the motion as passed by the Chairman, Rules and Business. I so second.
I'll just put the question. Okay, honorable colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. The fifth order of the day is a motion on rescission of report of Conference Committee on Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill pursuant to Order 9, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives, standing in the name of Honorable E.Y. Okejev. Honorable Okejev is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. Okejev, I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. This again is a motion on rescission of the report of the Conference Committee on the Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill pursuant to Order 9, Rule 16 of the Standing Orders of the House of Representatives. The House notes that the report of the Conference Committee on a bill for an act to amend the Public Procurement Act was considered and adopted on Thursday, 27 July 2017. The House is aware that the conference adopted Clause 1, 2 of the House of Representatives Bill as passed. Also aware that Clause 5 of the report did not reflect in whole the House version as adopted. Further aware that Clauses 10 and 12 of the report did not reflect what was adopted in the conference. Desirous of taking necessary steps to reflect the correct and intended amendment of the Public Procurement Act by rescinding the House decision in Clause 1.2, which amended Section 1.2 of the Public Procurement Act, Clause 5, which amended Section 5 of the Public Procurement Act, Clause 10, which amended Section 15 of the Public Procurement Act, Clause 13, which amended Section 20 of the Act, Clause 14, which amended Section 21 of the Act, Clause 17A and B, which amended Section 25 and 28 of the Act respectively, and Clause 18, which amended Section 35 of the Act. The House resolved to rescind its decision on clauses 2, 5, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17A and B, and 18 of report of the Conference Committee on the Public Procurement Act Amendment B. And 2, to commit clauses 2, 5, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17A and B, and 18 of the report to the Committee of the Whole for reconsideration. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Honorable Arabo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Simon Arabo is my name. I represent Confederal Constituency. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable Hoke Jeff. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. The sixth order of the day, honorable colleagues, a motion on need for gradual and constant rehabilitation of Nigerian roads standing in the name of Honorable Bolaji Yusuf Ayinla. Honorable Ayinla is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow colleagues, Bolaji Yusuf Ayinla is my name. I represent Mushin Constituency 2 in Lagos State. Mr. Speaker, the need for gradual and consistent rehabilitation of Nigerian roads. The House note that many federal roads in different parts of the country are dilapidated. This has affected the free movement of people and goods across the country, as a lot of delay and accidents occurring on the roads, attributed to the bad state of the road. Further note that all the bad federal roads in Nigeria need immediate attention of the federal government. The limited resources within the government does not allow them to fulfill all the necessary roads. Immediate attention of the federal government, the limited resources at the disposal of the federal government has made it impossible for all the roads to be rehabilitated at the same time. Also note that in the past successive administration and always awarded contracts for the rehabilitation or reconstruction of long stretch of the federal road proposed in annual budget, but many of such contracts were not executed due to the inability of those government to release funds on time for the contractor to pursue the project. Convincing that if the contract are awarded yearly for rehabilitation of the specified stretch of selected federal road, it will be easier for the federal government to release funds to execute them and ensure that more roads are rehabilitated within the 4 years tenure of a particular administration. Resolved to urge the federal government to adopt a system of gradual and consistent rehabilitation of Nigerian roads by awarding only contracts it has resources to execute within a financial year. I so move.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. I'm Honorable Aisha Jibril Duku, Jimbiyar Duku, the Jakadiyar Dastafarku. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable Ayinla. I so second.
Honorable Yusuf Ayila, 2 minutes to lead the debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My distinguished colleagues, the need for gradual and consistent rehabilitation of Nigerian roads. Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, I want you to listen attentively to see that this issue I'm talking about is something that affected almost 360 honorable members because it's something to do with the various roads that has been done. Over the years, successive governments have always made effort to repair our roads, and they do this by awarding contracts for the rehabilitation of long stretch of roads at the same time. Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues, sometimes they will even announce the road they intended to rehabilitate, their distance and the cost. However, experience over the years has shown that the federal government was not always in position to execute all the contracts according to their plans. Sometimes they will rehabilitate a little stretch of the road and abandon the remaining. Sometimes they will abandon it due to the lack of funds. Contractor has been awarded contracts, and a situation whereby a lot of problems arises, they will tell you that the government has not paid them. I believe the government should pay to whatever they are capable of doing, rather than doing what they are not. In view of this, the federal government should adopt a system of gradual and consistent rehabilitation of this road. For instance, a 200-kilometer road can be rehabilitated by awarding a yearly contract for the repair of 50 kilometers of the road at a time. This will make it easier for the government to pay. Such contract can be awarded to repair many roads in different parts of the country. Right, Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, if this system adopted and they do it consistently, many roads will be rehabilitated over a given period of time. A particular administration will also know how much it has achieved in road rehabilitation. I urge the honorable colleagues, my fellow honorable member, to support this motion as it is affect every one of us. Thank you very much.
Honorable Pojok.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Mr. Speaker, my name is Edward Pojok. I represent Just South, Just East. Mr. Speaker, let me say from the outset that I will give a qualified support to this motion, if only because it draws attention to the fact that our roads need to be rehabilitated. But Mr. Speaker, the motion is only looking at the short-term needs to rehabilitate our roads. What about in the long term? Because if it says gradual rehabilitation, it means it's only a few of the roads, of the federal roads, that will be taken for rehabilitation. But Mr. Speaker, I think that, yes, we have a very serious issue with the need to generally rehabilitate all our federal roads. As a matter of fact, some few days ago, Mr. Speaker, if you recall, this House considered in the Committee of the Whole the need to amend the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. And in the amendment that we're making, we are repealing the FEMA Act, so that FEMA, as we know it today, will cease to exist. We now have a Federal Roads Agency, which will be saddled with the responsibility of generally maintaining all our roads. Mr. Speaker, if we say we only allocate some amount for some few roads, like you're saying, gradual process of rehabilitation, it means after like 5-10 years, those roads will also fall into decay, and then there will also be the need again to still maintain them. So we are looking at a sustainable method by which we fix all our roads, and that explains the wisdom behind the current bill, which this House in its wisdom has tweeted. Mr. Speaker, the bill says the government will even tax, or there will be some tax, whereby all roads in the country will be maintained. There will also be the possibility of even toll gates and some other methods whereby government will have the financial wherewithal to ensure that all roads are maintained. Mr. Speaker, what we are having now in Nigeria is not sustainable. All of us travel outside of Nigeria. We see what happens in other countries, particularly in the Western world. Year in, year out, all roads are maintained constantly. But in Nigeria, we do some roads, we abandon them until after about 10 years. It becomes very, very costly to do those roads again. So I'm calling the attention of the relevant authorities to probably look at our own version of the amendment of the law so that we have a more sustainable way of rehabilitating permanently our own roads. But this issue of gradual and constant rehabilitation may not really do. It will mean that after 5 years or after 10 years, some roads will become impassable because no attention will be given to those roads. So on the whole, I think that in the interim, in the short term, it may be good, but in the long term, it may not be sustainable. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. Engineer Solomon Marel is my name, and I represent the very good people of Mangu Bokos Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from one of the most terrorized states of Plateau. Mr. Speaker, I rise to lend my voice on this beautiful motion that has been raised by my colleague. Mr. Speaker, roads are engineering products that have been developed from scientific theories and postulations. I think one major issue that we have with our roads is the issue of supervision of these roads. Being scientific products, to an extent, we should be able to have some lifespan given to these roads. But unfortunately today in our country, a road that is under construction is also one of the failed roads in our society. And I think the only way to go is to ensure that the necessary supervision and qualification of even the contractors and board and the supervising team remains very, very pertinent in our history as a people. Otherwise, we'll continue to develop roads that even during construction, these roads will also be failing. And I think, Mr. Speaker, we have a bill going on in this House, the Road Fund Act. I'm sure by the time that bill also comes into light, there will be some certain degree of funding that will be permanently available for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of our roads. And I think that the only way that as a country we can ensure consistent maintenance of our roads is to give out these roads to the private sector to manage. If we concession these roads, and then we know a concessionaire that is stationed on, for example, Abuja Lokoja Road, you know that if there is any issue that arises on that road, you know somebody to hold responsible. And in Germany today, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of roads that were built even on concession base, and that by today, if you apply those roads, you will see that government have written that they have already made their money and the roads are now free for passage. And I think these are the kind of programs that we should also invite or do in our country so that it will, one, save cost for government, and again, also give us very beautiful roads that are not going to be of trouble to us as a society. I think, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge my colleagues to support this motion that the federal government must develop a fiscal policy on the constant maintenance of those roads, which one of them can be concession. And I think that is my suggestion, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
It's actually a motion bordering on infrastructure, so I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Seventh order of the day, Honorable Colleagues, motion on need to ensure remittance of budgetary provision for the Federal University of Petroleum Resources EFRUN to boost research development in the oil and gas industry, standing in the name of Honorable Reneju Daniel. Honorable Daniel is now invited to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I am Daniel Reneju. I represent Warri Federal Constituency. My colleagues are from Delta State. The House notes that the Federal University of Petroleum Resources Efunu Delta State Enabling Act was passed in 2017. Also notes that the Federal University of Petroleum Resources, which is the first in Africa and the sixth in the world, was set up with the core mandate of producing skilled personnel with capability to understand, use, and adapt existing technology, improve on, and develop new ones. Further notes that the specialized university is the federal government's deliberate effort to strengthen capacity in science and technology with special focus on petroleum resources and other allied sectors in the Niger Delta region. Aware that Section 9, 2, 3, and 4 of the Federal University of Petroleum Resources Establishment Act 2017 provides as follows. The Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, the Petroleum Technology Development Funds, and the Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board shall provide 2% of their annual budget for research programs in petroleum technology and facilities in the university. 3. Petroleum Technology Development Funds shall contribute at least 2% of its gross revenues for the academic and infrastructural development of the university. The general funds shall be applied for the purpose of the university. The House therefore is concerned that the paucity of funds will hinder the capacity of the university to conduct research that will impact positively on the oil and gas industry, which in turn relates to low specialized students' enrollment. The House is hereby worried that if the annual remittances is not given the budgetary attention as envisaged under the Act, it will continue to reduce Nigerians' locally trained human capacity in the oil and gas industry. The House thereby resolves, mandate the House Committee on Petroleum Resources, Upstream, Tertiary Education and Services, Finance and Local Content Development Board to ensure that the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Petroleum Technology Development Funds, and the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board provides 2% of their annual budget to the Federal University of Petroleum Resources EFRU in the 2018 appropriation estimates. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. I'm Hassan Saleh from Benue, representing Ado Ogbadibo Federal Constituency. Speaker, I rise to second this motion ably moved by Honorable Daniel Reneju. I so second.
Honorable Dan, please lead the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. This motion is a very straightforward motion, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. I wouldn't want to waste the time of this parliament. Mr. Speaker, the House would recall that sometimes in 2017, this wonderful House graciously passed the Petroleum Technology University in Delta State, which is meant to produce manpower for researches and development of technologies, locally manufactured technologies in the oil and gas industry. Mr. Speaker, we all recall that without funds, it will be difficult for these universities and the students to carry out their research works that could boost the locally manufactured technologies in our universities and also impact in the oil and gas industry. Mr. Speaker, like I said earlier, it's a very straightforward motion. What I am only trying to do is to recall the consciousness of this wonderful parliament and also to call on the standing committees or the relevant standing committees of this, which impacts on this university, to capture and ensure compliance that such 2% funds which is being captured in the act of the university are remitted as at when due, so that we could cut short the need to send people abroad on training as we regularly do. Mr. Speaker, I have been in this house and I've always been serving in either one or the other petroleum-related committees. I know how many times, Mr. Speaker, I have gone on oversight through the PDDF to see the welfare of our students that have been trained abroad. Mr. Speaker, by the time this university is adequately funded, I can assure you that that will cut short the cost of sending students abroad to study, because the research technologies will have been in the university, and this will also grow our locally manufacturing capacity to ensure that the oil and gas industry benefit instead of depending on importing or transfer of technology. Mr. Speaker, the world has moved all the way from transfer of technology. It depends on what you can produce locally is what matters most. Mr. Speaker, you also recall that on a yearly basis, as the month of May draws nearer, most Nigerians are now looking forward to going to the offshore technology trade fair in the Houston. Mr. Speaker, nothing stops this country from equally, organizing our own local trade fair. And I think this university should be the pioneer of such. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues, this is my motion, and I hope this could go with the with the budget as we are about to pass it, so that the university can function and function maximally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues.
So I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Eighth order of the day, honorable colleagues, consideration. No, Chairman, rules and business, please. We're moving into consideration of report, so we move that we suspend our rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, Jeff. I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do suspend the provisions of Order 7, Rule 2, Sub-Rule 2, to allow the Speaker preside in the Committee of the Whole. I so move.
Eighth order of the day, honorable colleagues. Oh, no, seconder. Permanent acting.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Marja Monguno, Gaza Federal Constituency of Borno State. I hereby second the motion as heavily moved by the Chairman, Rules and Business.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against it say nay. Once this Bagoda is saying it is waste of time. The ayes have it. So we move to consideration of reports. The eighth order of the day is consideration of bill for an act to provide for the Ajakuta Steel Company Completion Fund for the speedy completion of the project and for related matters. Honorable members will recall the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Thursday, 22nd March 2018. Honorable Nzoma Nkema Bonte will move for its consideration. Where is Honorable Bonte?
Thank you, Speaker. My name is Uzoma Nkema Bonte. I'm the Speaker. Permit me to speak from this seat. I move that a bill for an act to provide for the Ajakuta Steel Company Completion Fund for the speedy completion of the project and for related matters be considered. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Nkole. No, that's not your seat. Honorable Obaga.
Right, Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Sylvester Obaga. I represent Abakaliki Federal Constituency. I'm from Ebonyi State. I stand to second the motion acceptably moved by Honorable Bonta. So second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Ninth order of the day is consideration of bill for an act to amend the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act, Chapter P38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to review the list of enterprises to be privatized and for related matters. Honorable members will recall that the bill was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Thursday, 22nd March 2018. Honorable Nzoma Nkema Bonto will move for its consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Nzoma Nkema Bonto. Mr. Speaker, may I move that the bill for an act to amend the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act, Cap P38, Laws of the Federation, be considered. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable EJ.
Right Honorable Speaker and dear colleagues, I remain Honorable EJ Akwanyima, representing the good people of Ego, Bubaha Federal Constituency. I rise to support the report ably moved by my Honorable leader, colleagues, Honorable Abonta, as a second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. 10th order of the day is consideration of report of the Conference Committee on Bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry for related matters. Honorable members will recall the report was led on Wednesday, 28 March 2018. Honorable Victor Nwokolo will move for its consideration.
Chairman, honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Victor Nwokolo, member representing Ika North East, Ika South Federal Constituency. I do rise that the House do consider the report of the Conference Committee on a Bill for an Act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and for related matters, and approve the recommendations therein, HBS 477, 878, and 1053. I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Isa Hassan Mohammed, representing Jamada Itas Gadao. I'm from Bauchi State. I stand to second the motion moved by Honorable Victor Nwokolo, Ika Central.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. 11th order of the day is consideration report of Conference Committee on Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill 2018. Honorable members recall the report was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 28 March 2018. Honorable Oluwole Oke will move for the consideration of the report. Honorable Oke was on the floor.
Right Honorable Speaker, my fellow colleagues, I am Oluwole Oke. I represent Obokun Oriade. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, I am from Osun State. Mr. Speaker, may I move that this House do consider the report of the Conference Committee on the Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill 2018 and approve the recommendations therein. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honorable Mare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Engineer Solomon Maren is my name, and I represent Mangu Bokos from Plateau State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by my colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. 12th order of the day is consideration of a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit as a central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, disseminating financial intelligence report and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies, or other related or relevant authorities. Honorable members will recall that the bill was committed to Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, 28 March 2018. Honorable Kaide Oladele will move for its consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Kayode Oladele. I represent Yewa North and Imekwa for Federal Constituency. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit as the central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information by law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies and other relevant authorities, and for related matters, HB 1082, be considered by the committee. I so move.
Seconder, Honorable Frederick.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable colleagues. Agbedi Etiemne Frederick is my name. I represent Agbama Kirimo Federal Constituency. Izonkeme, I'm from Bayelsa State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I rise to second the motion as ably moved. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. To order of the day is consideration of 11 bills committed to the Committee of the Whole. Honorable EY Okejef will move for the consideration of the reports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okejef, I represent the good people of Buruku. My dear colleagues, I'm from Benue State. I rise to move for the consideration of the following bills. 1. A bill for an act to establish the National Institute of Credit Administration and for related matters, HB 425. 2. A bill for an act to regulate the franchise business in Nigeria and for related matters, HB 78. 3. A bill for an act to establish Forest Research Institute of Nigeria and for related matters, HB 41. A bill for an act to establish National Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory Science to conduct professional postgraduate examination of candidates into various specialized branches of medical laboratory science and for related matters. A bill for an act to establish Nigerian Academy of Science to promote the growth, acquisition, and dissemination of scientific knowledge and to facilitate the use of science in the solution to problems of national interest and for related matters. A bill for an act to provide for corporate manslaughter by making corporate organizations criminally liable for death of employees arising from their acts or omissions and for related matters. A bill for an act to establish National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which provides the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions and for related matters. A bill for an act to establish National Child Protection and Enforcement Agency to provide necessary protection and care for the Nigerian children and for related matters. A bill for an act to establish Federal Capital Territory Civil Service Commission charged with the responsibility for appointment, promotion, and discipline of staff and employees in the civil service of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and for related matters. A bill for an act to establish Animal Health Husbandry Technologies Registration Board of Nigeria to regulate the practice of animal health and husbandry technologies in Nigeria and for related matters. Finally, my dear colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal the Consumer Protection Act, Cap C25, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, establish the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and the Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal for development and promotion of fair, efficient, and competitive market in Nigerian economy, facilitate access by all citizens to safe products, secure protection of rights for all consumers in Nigeria, and for related matters. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Seconder, sorry. Honorable Kaide.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues. My name is Kayode Oladele. I represent you are not Imekwa from Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Ogun State. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the Chairman of the Business. I so second. Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next order of the day is consideration of bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act, Chapter 117, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to increase the capital expenditure for companies applying for pioneer status under the provisions of this bill and for related matters. Honorable members will recall the bill was committed to the Committee of the Whole on Thursday, 22nd March 2018. I now invite the Chairman Rules and Business to move for the consideration of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I move for the consideration, may I move also that we set aside the provisions of Order 8 Rule 6 because of the hurried nature of the items that we are considering. The Rules and Business Committee has been working round the clock, but the items may be coming in bits, so that we can jump over any item that is not readily available for now, but take it when the reports are around. So having said that, my dear colleagues, I move for the consideration on a bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act, Cap 117, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to increase the capital expenditure for companies. Leader, stop disrupting me.
Honorable Marion, are you on your way or I don't know? And Honorable Nasiru.
Mr. Speaker, the leader is drawing attention to the fact that I have moved for suspension of the rules, which has not been seconded. So, I think it's right.
Okay, yeah. Seconder, Honorable Ponta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reben Kimebonta, I move, I second the motion as please done by the Chairman, Rules and Business, that we may move forward.
Those in favor of the motion for suspension of rules to enable us to take this additional item, say aye. Those against it, say nay. Ayes have it. So you can now move for the consideration of that report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move for the consideration of a bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act, Cap I-17, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to increase the capital expenditure for companies applying for pioneer status under the provisions of this bill and for related matters. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I so move.
Seconder. Honorable Kaite.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Kayode Oladele. I represent you are not an Imekwa for Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I'm from Ogun State. I rise to second the motion as moved by Honorable KJF. As you second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Leader, move that we resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider the reports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I rise to move that this House dissolve the Committee of Whole to consider the reports. I so move.
Seconder, Rules and Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second the motion as moved by the Leader of the House. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. House hereby resolving the Committee of the Whole to consider the reports. Honorable colleagues, even though the reports may look bulky, but I can assure you that they do not involve a lot of work, in the sense that most of the bills just contain minor amendments. So we'll take the first report. The first bill to be considered is for an act to provide for the Ajaokuta Steel Company Completion Fund for the speedy completion of the projects and for related matters. And I invite Honorable Zoma Nkemabonte to give us the synopsis of the bill.
Thank you, Chair. I remain Zoma Nkemabonte. The Chair, this bill seeks for provision of funds for speedy completion of Ajaokuta Steel Company. The bill seeks to make available sufficient funds for the completion of the project, and the bill seeks to get a fund from particular sources, excess crude and all what that may be, and that the bill will continue, the law will continue to remain in force up until the completion of the Ajaokuta Steel Company on such a date as will be declared by the President has been completed. Mr. Speaker, the essence of this bill is to fill in the gap of having unfinished projects and the need of, I'm too tall, so I'm not putting the microphone, to complete the project that Nigerians may benefit from the largest associated with steel. That's the genesis, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Abonte, Honorable Zachary was complaining bitterly that he cannot hear you. You're putting on the cap of this thing, what do they call them? Cowboy hat. But you're speaking romantically, so you couldn't reconcile the two. If you're a cowboy, just be a cowboy and talk to us the way everybody can hear you.
And just that my battery is trebly diminished. I'm famished, but I was conserving the battery. I will say that this bill actually seeks to the completion of Ajaokuta Company, and the bill provides funds for the speedy completion of it, that we may not be having unfinished projects, and consider the importance of steel to the nation. Then it's only absolutely necessary that will complete Ajaokuta. And Mr. Speaker, I so explain. Carry, are you okay? Yeah.
An amendment, a bill seeking for an amendment of an existing act. Pardon? So, if we have the report here, it's titled number 8. We'll just take it and start from the clauses. Clause 1, carried. Clause 2, Clause 2, Honorable Pajok.
Thank you, Chairman. Clause 2A, we're talking about fund to complete. I think we should add on that excess crude revenue of the federal government of Nigeria. Otherwise, if we leave it the way it is, it means it's the funds belonging to the entire federation, including states and local government. That $1 billion.
Now, this is a constitutional issue. Seriously, we need a lot of brainstorming. I think the original intent is that this is a national project. And as such, the states, local governments, and the federation should contribute towards completing it. Honorable Pajok, just listen to what I'm about to say. I think the thinking was that this is a national project, and so it won't be out of place for states, local government, and the federation to contribute towards realizing this project, which is the bedrock of our industrialization. But like you rightly pointed out, I don't know whether we can legislate on the monies due to local government and states, because if we say excess crude, except we're talking about the share of the federation, it means that we're touching the share of states and local government. That is where the problem is. So how are we going to resolve this? Because my own thinking was that local government, states, and everybody should contribute to this. The money can be taken.
Legal drafting is always an issue. My take, also considering the issue raised by Hussein, is to say the sum of diseases from excess crude revenue being a portion of the federal government. Being portion of the federal government, if the states and the local government wants to contribute, let it be under donation in the bill. But to avoid the constitutional hitch, we should emphasize that any part that belongs to federal government should be taken to form this money. Otherwise, there's no other way. Local government and states may refuse to. I agree with it.
Leader.
I think, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Pajok's observation is on point, and I think that can be addressed in subclause A, like Honorable Abonja has added, from the federal government's portion. The states, I believe, can be taken care of in sub B, by sub B reading all monies that may from time to time be appropriated and authorized by any authority. So that would cover state, local government, or anybody. That can be taken care of in clause B. All monies that may from time to time be appropriated and authorized by any authority, or we can say by any government, to be paid into the fund by the bill. So we're leaving that door open for states and local governments to, on their own volition, appropriate to the fund.
Nena.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just have a concern and a question. And, you know, I look at this too, and we're talking about the excess crude account. Yet on this floor, we've had conversations as to the legality of this account. So my concern is, are we codifying something that we haven't quite settled the legality of saying? I'm just a little concerned about this. I just want clarification. I don't understand.
Leader.
I thought about what she said earlier on, and just not to upset the apple cart, I thought, well, the way it has been drafted can maybe give cover in the sense that it says the sum of $1 billion from excess crude revenue as opposed to from the excess crude account. So there will always be, we have a benchmark, and so there will always be excess crude from that benchmark. So if you had put account, then we're legitimizing what we have said, but now I just said revenue, excess crude revenue.
Mr. Speaker, if my memory serves me right, I think when we were debating this matter, there seems to have been a consensus that the drawdown will be from our foreign reserve, not the excess crude account. But I think we discussed that. And as the custodians of our account, whether onshore or offshore, we have the right to say drawdown from the Federal Reserve, which is over $46 billion as of today.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we did mention the foreign reserve, and that was one of the options. We did not narrow it down. We sent it to the committee, to whoever was handling this bill. We did not really double down on any particular, whether it was foreign reserve or excess. We can make that decision here. Are we taking that from the excess crude account or revenue, or from the foreign reserve? So I don't think a decision was made at that time.
Well, Honorable Pajok, this issue of foreign reserve is very complicated because there are national laws on regulating how foreign reserves can be depleted. So it's not that easy, except you start amending regulations, laws, so many. So I think our best bet is to go with this excess crude revenue, not excess crude account. Yes, but the share of the federation. So let's amend 2.1, and then we move on to 2B. 2A, sorry, 2A. So who is proposing the amendment? Okay, Honorable Pajok. It will be share of the federation.
Mr. Speaker, may I propose that we amend clause 2A to add the words, the sum of $1 billion from the excess crude revenue of the federation, of the federal government of Nigeria. Yes, share of the federal government of Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Sunday Adepoju, representing the Barakwais and the Federal Consensus of Oyo State. I move to second the motion, the amendment as proposed by Honorable Pajok. I so second the amendment.
Honorable Zachary is being mischievous, so when we are done, please contact him so that you can sort him out. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Then 2B, as proposed by the leader. Leader, what was your amendment? You have to be very clear.
Yes, I think what we were trying to achieve was to involve the states, optional, if they wanted to contribute. So what we said was all monies that may is the operative word, all monies that may from time to time be appropriated and authorized by any authority. By any authority or any authority or whatever one. But the amendment is made. Any tier of government, yes. Yes. By any other tier of government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Engineer Solomon Maren is my name, and I represent the very good people of Mangu Bokos Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from one of the most terrorized states of Nigeria, Plateau State. I rise to second this amendment moved by my dear colleague. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. For the amendment to the amendment?
It's only because we have to be, as you know, Mr. Chairman, interpretation can be very, very dicey. But I think what we said was all the monies from time to time are appropriated and authorized by any tier, other tier of government. By any other tier. But I just realized that if we leave it like that, we would have shut out the federal government from that clause B. So, because it would mean that we're talking about states only or local governments only. But what we are looking at is that the federal government itself can still, or this house can still appropriate beyond the excess other monies. So we should put all monies that may from time to time be appropriated and authorized by the federal government and other tiers of government. We'll have to include the federal government in that clause B as well. Because the implication is that clause B only refers to, if we don't include the federal government, it only refers to the state governments and local governments.
I think the leader is beginning to suffer from diminishing returns as well. If you say tier of government, what's the pedestrian definition? Is it not federal, states, and local governments? So the federation is covered. Or tier of government. Any authority or tier of government. That's the amendment. Yes, not other tiers of government. Or tier of government. So tier of government is federal, state, local government. So you're perfectly in order. So clause 2 as amended, carried. Clause 3, Ajay Yinka, the lone man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My observation is on clause 3A. And I refer us to the fourth line on that provision that says that tries to explain what capital assets is. It's not elegant drafting, to say the least, to begin to limit the understanding or scope of what a capital asset is. Capital assets are, it's an accounting phrase. We know what capital assets are. So beginning to use the descriptive word in the legislation like vehicles, vessels, machinery, instruments, and equipment is, like I said, in the least elegant, and two, it's not appropriate in the circumstance. So I propose that we delete the like and just leave the legislation as other capital assets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my respected colleagues.
Of all members who are complaining, Zabonta that is complaining that he can't hear you. Okay. I think his point is that there's no elegant drafting to define what capital assets are in the bill. Capital asset is an accounting term. So once you say capital assets, it's assumed that whoever is interpreting it will know by definition in other texts, not from the bill. So I guess your motion is that we should delete the bracket, delete the items there and just leave capital assets. Any professional will know what capital assets are. Honorable Kayode.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I think while any profession will know what capital assets is, we should also put it in the definition section. Because the definition section will actually itemize what we mean. The intention of the legislation is very important, not the professional. So we can take it to definition section instead of leaving it for any professional to interpret for us.
Okay. Honorable Zachary.
Sorry, sir. I just want to say that if we go by this line of argument, it will be limiting, because, for instance, there are lawyers, when it comes to, if there is a dispute and they had to talk about it, they will tell you that it is not itemized in the definition section. So why not leave it at that phrase? You can interpret it to cover it, to all encompassing. Capital asset, all encompassing. I just believe, I don't think we would be doing any harm if we leave it at that.
Honorable Shehu, Sarkim Noma, Shehu Garba.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Shehu Garba Sarkim Noma. I represent Jama Sanga Federal Constituency. Mr. Chairman, I think I want to concur with the suggestion made by Honorable Ajayi, because capital asset is an accounting concept, and we have to define it here. We can hardly exhaust the list of capital assets, but they are none. These are physical assets that are used by an organization for the purposes of advancing its business, and neither the definition section can capture exhaustively the list of capital assets. So I think leaving it as capital asset, I think should suffice in this case, because we can hardly list out what constitutes capital assets. But like it is said, this is an accounting concept and it's well known. Capital assets are physical assets that you can touch and feel, that are used for the purposes of advancing the business of an enterprise. And neither can we capture it exhaustively in the definition section. So I want to concur with what Honorable Ajayi has said, rather than trying to interpret what it constitutes. I so submit, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think Honorable Kayode, there's a point they're making that we should listen to. We're making laws here, and this is an industry that we're not used to. We don't have the experts on the floor. So if you restrict the quantum of capital assets on which the funds can be applied, what if it is, if the case is that there are other capital assets that are not covered in the law? That means that they will have to come for amendment of the law within the first year. So I think if there's a professional agreement on what capital assets means, we will be safer to stay there and not just restrict the definition of capital assets. I don't know.
If we decide to go that way, there's no problem. But I know that even if you decide, if you define it, there's a justem generis rule. So there is no definition that is exhaustive, but we can go by way of a justem generis rule. But of course, if this House decides that we don't have to define it, there is no problem about that. Thank you.
Honorable Yinka, your amendment, please. Your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My amendment is that we delete the word like. Sorry. We delete the words like vehicles, vessels, and I am lost.
Machinery.
Okay, sorry. Vehicles, vessels, machinery, instruments, and equipment from clause 3A, and we leave the clause as so amended. Thank you, Chairman.
Any seconder? Honorable Kaide.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I would like to second the motion.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Honorable Pajok.
So still on this number 3, I've noticed that it's on application of monies in the fund. And the main purpose of this fund is to complete the Ajakuta project. Mr. Speaker, my question is, what if there are some encumbrances or there are some expenses that were not paid for, like loans and all that?
how do we take care of them? Because it may well be that it's when we commence this completion process that some other persons will now bring their bills that there are encumbrances we have not paid for them. So I think that if it is true, then we may have some way to capture those expenses to pay for them so that we don't have anything to stall the completion of the project, Mr. Speaker.
We'll propose the amendment and then we'll take it. Leader.
I mean, I think my observation may be in line with Honorable Pajok, in the sense that this clause 3 appears to be a blank check to the minister. And because of the history of Ajaokuta, because of the history of other funds that we may have had, like the BASA fund for aviation and all of that, I'm just wondering if there should be a further appropriation or approval by the National Assembly before any authority can actually dip his hand or her hand into the till as a further check. Otherwise, because as it reads now, what we have done is to appropriate money into the fund, and then we allow whoever is in charge to just spend as is without. So I'm making an amendment for subject to approval of the National Assembly. Otherwise, we'll just say we may end up back right where we started.
I don't understand. The expenditure should be made subject to approval of the National Assembly. I thought the only way we can do that is the exercising the power of appropriation.
I'm sure it can be by way of a resolution or however, because even the Constitution says that subject to, you cannot spend money from any fund except in a manner prescribed by the National Assembly. It can be by way of a resolution. It cannot be just by appropriation act. It cannot be by an act. It may be by way of resolution. If we agree, we put it in there. Otherwise, if we think it's okay to just allow a carte blanche or blank check for the minister, then I'm just thinking of a further check on that power.
Rules and business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the concern of the leader, but then, really, just like you, I really am not clear how he wants this done. You see, we have the power of appropriation, and so if we put it to use, this should not really be such a big deal. Anywhere that government money is spent, we as a parliament are supposed to track it and see how it's being spent. That is what is known as oversight. We have the power of oversight. So if we are to say, okay, any money that is to be spent, a motion will come on the floor and all of that. What if the motion comes and they still spend it in spite of that, away from the way we recommended? So I think here the concern can be resolved through constant oversight of these monies.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you understand my fears because of the history of Ajaokuta. Now, oversight is medicine after death. Oversight is medicine after death. You would have spent the money, perhaps inappropriately, and then the oversight kicks in. And then what do? It's like allowing the horses have already left the stable. So I'm just looking for a situation where we can further make sure we are able to curtail or to have hands-on on how the money is spent. What we are appropriating now is appropriating money into the fund. We are not appropriating yet for the money to be spent on by the minister. It's a two-leg appropriation I'm looking at here.
Honorable Yinka.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. I think we should really critically look at the House leader's observation on this provision. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd read that provision so that we can understand the premise of the House leader. The clause says that the monies in the fund shall be applied by the minister only for the purpose of the listed items. Mr. Speaker, that draft provision has taken the powers of the application of the funds and its appropriation away from this parliament. The oversight is still with this parliament, yes, but like the leader has said, it's medicine after death. If the provision, for example, were to say the monies in the fund shall be applied only for the purposes of blah, 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 and as may be appropriated by parliament, then the fears of the minister hiding under this provision to do away with the requirement of appropriation is very, very likely. Not only because of the peculiarities of Ajaokuta, but because of the peculiarities of the nature of the executive that would hide at any opportunity, run away from having to come to this parliament for appropriation. So if we look at the provision of that, the way the clause is drafted, Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, it's important to understand that that provision says that the minister, because we've appropriated monies into the fund, so we're now saying how it should be spent. So we're by this provision appropriating it into the hands of the minister. I really think that it's very important that we understand that that is the danger we run into here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What I'm trying to say, sir, is, if I give you an example, it says construction. These are omnibus spending powers. Very omnibus spending. Construction, purchase of land. Even when we appropriate money here, we have to know the specific amount that you are going to use for such a thing. By this act, a minister can come to you and say, I bought land for 500 million. Whereas the land, if we had the powers to appropriate the funds, would have been maybe 100 million. We can cut such expenses. This is a way to siphon money, but I'm not talking about any specific minister. I'm just saying it's not enough to rein in any spendthrift minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I think that all this ambiguity is taken care of by in clause 4, where it says disbursement from the fund shall be applied by the minister in accordance with the rules made under section 23 of the Finance Control and Management Act. And section 23 of the Finance Control and Management Act says disbursement from any funds specified in the first schedule of this act other than the Development Fund and Contingency Fund shall be made in accordance with the rules to be made by the minister and approved by resolution of the National Assembly. So I think that, and it furthermore goes to say that all rules made under the subsection shall be consistent with provisions of law regulating that fund. And the Development Fund and Contingencies Fund referred to in the first schedule shall be operated in accordance with the rules set out in the second and third schedules, and provisions of the second and third schedules may be amended by further rules made to this act by the minister published in the Federal Gazette, provided that such rules shall cease to have effect if a resolution at the next meeting of the National Assembly therefore so requires. So I think that section 4, disbursement of the funds, has adequately taken care of the ambiguity that is in section 3, I think.
I think we are covered. But except that in Nigeria you have to do everything in black and white. So Honorable Yinka's suggestion is quite apt, that we should include it right at initial, that it should be, the funds can only be appropriated or expended in line with appropriations by the National Assembly. So make that, let it be there in black and white, so that the person running the fund doesn't think that, oh, it didn't say the National Assembly must appropriate, but only to spend in line with the provision of section 23. So let's just have it in black and white there. So Yinka proposed that amendment. so that we can take care of those issues. Any other issue? Honorable Pajok, what's your amendment? Let's take it and move on, please.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment is to add a prayer 3E to the fact that to defray any previous expenses or loans.
Okay, seconder. Honorable TJ Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I rise to second the amendment ably moved by Honorable Pajok. I so second.
Of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. So I think Honorable Yinka's amendment, the monies in the fund shall be applied by the minister, subject to appropriation of the National Assembly, only for the purposes of. So just move the amendment, let's take it and move on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we amend clause 3 of the bill to read as follows. The monies in the fund shall be applied by the minister in accordance with, subject to appropriation of the National Assembly and only for the purposes of A, B, C, D. I so move.
Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, Adam D. Kamara is my name. I stand to second the motion for the amendment. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Clause 3 as amended, carried. Clause 4 carried. Clause 5 carried. Clause 6 carried. 6. Clause 7 carried. 7, rules and business.
Mr. Chairman, ordinarily, this 7 should be okay if you are reading the board. I see two contrasting interpretations of this clause 7. 1, let me read it for emphasis. It said that Jakarta Steel Company shall be concessioned under the provisions of the policy on privatization or any written law, provided that the project is completed and is seen to have begun production at a very significant. Now, one interpretation is that, okay, when it is being concessioned, it has to be under the policy on privatization or any written law. The other one is that when you have completed the Jakarta, you must concession it. Yeah. So the point is that the drafting is not elegant. It has to be done in such a way as to convey exactly what the drafters want.
I think Chairman rules and business, all that can cure that, instead of the word shall, maybe we replace shall with the word may. So that means that the government is at liberty after completion and the place is fully running. If they so decide, they can concession in line with the provision of relevant laws. But it's not that they shall, which makes it mandatory for them to concession. Deputy Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, I believe that what we seek to achieve here, when we have finished with it, the government could be in a position to decide that all that has been put there was venture capital, and that this project that is set to run now can't be taken to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, for instance, for all Nigerians to be part owners of a running Ajaokuta steel complex. Now, if by law we have already kind of foreclosed that possibility by talking about concession to the exclusion of other alternatives, then I'm not too sure we would have done the best for the country. So my suggestion is that this particular clause be stepped down.
Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think we might have found ourselves in a quagmire here, if I'm correct. And following what he has also said, Honorable Pali, I believe there is another bill that deletes Ajaokuta from the Privatization Act, if I'm correct. There's another bill that deletes Ajaokuta from the Privatization Act. So it might be difficult to reconcile this one and that one, because if you've deleted it, that means you cannot concession it. So, and I believe that would be the right step, because also in the Constitution it talks about major sectors of the economy, that the government should not let go of major sectors of the economy. So I am agreeing with him that perhaps 7 should be deleted, because you cannot reconcile that clause with the next bill we're about to consider. Unless you want to say we will now introduce another bill to reintroduce it back into the Privatization and Commercialization Act.
No, I think that we can actually reconcile our position, Leader. I sincerely believe that. Now, what we're doing by taking it out of the list of firms to be privatized is to ensure that it is not, concession at the moment. So that means that Ajaokuta complex, by that removal, will never be concession. But what I think the wisdom here is that after it's been completed and it's been run, you know, in Nigeria, government is not a good runner of business. And they decide that they want to concession, they want to privatize, they want to put it in the stock exchange, whatever it is. If we don't include a clause like this, it cannot be done, because we have removed Ajaokuta from the list of companies that may be privatized. So it means that it cannot be done except they pass another law. So this one attempts to be something that is futuristic, to say that by the time you have completed the plan and it is producing at a very significant stage, and you so wish to concession, liberalize the ownership or whatever, you are free to do that. But at that time, we're sure that we would have had a plan. So I guess that is where we are. What about Bonta, who is the...
Thank you, Chairman. You seem to have read the thinking of the drafters here, because the government got no business doing business. And if we 30 years ago, we never imagined we'll come into the grammar of privatization and commercialization. So we thought of being futuristic in drafting this, so that provided it's full running, going and all concerned, the government can now decide to do whatever. So I think that till May will take care of the futuristic thinking and all whatnot, because by the time the place is fully running, management may become an issue, like we've already witnessed. So the idea is complete the project, get it running, get it fully developed, then you may decide to sell the shares to make it public, private, commercial, as Nigerians may agree, without going to look for another legislation to do that. Because the next bill now will delift it from privatization. So like you said, we cannot. That's what we are thinking. I think we may redraft it properly, but the idea is to allow us complete and hit it running first, then we decide what to do.
Minority Leader, Deputy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I agree with the drafters of the bill, but it will also be nice if we can put milestone, maybe give a certain time limit and work towards those milestones. In clause 9.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues. While we are looking at this clause 7, I want to refer us to the expiration, that's 9, to see the linkage, because if you look at the expiration of the bill is after completion. If you look at clause 7, it's talking about activity after completion. So we need to address that issue because the activity after completion will be done after the expiration of the bills. So we have to look at that particular two clauses very well. Thank you.
Honorable Frederick.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Chairman, clause 9 says, once the President says this project is completed, this act will expire. So there is no provision to say government will run it to determine whether they can run it for a period of time or immediately you are going to concession it before it expires. The 9 here says that once Mr. President says Jakarta Steel Company, as the project has been completed, this act expires. And so we don't have that futuristic provision that we're talking about. So I think that we should delete. At that time, if there is need for a law to be brought up to concession it or whatever, there will be parliament. And I think that we should allow that. So we should delete number clause 7. No, because if you say delete clause 9, then you are saying this act must continue. That's what you are saying. But we want this after the completion to stop. So we should delete 7. Parliament will be there if the need arises for government to concession it. They should approach Parliament. That's my submission, Chairman. Honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, Mr. Chairman, it's very important we consider the spirit of this bill. We are trying to avoid a situation whereby the Jakarta Steel Company goes into concession before completion. And this is what prompted the enactment of this bill, Mr. Chairman. I think I will suggest that clause 7 still be retained, but should be amended to read the Jakarta Steel Company may be concession or privatized under the provisions of the policy on privatization or any written law, provided that the project is completed and is seen to have begun production at a very significant stage. This is to safeguard our intention. If we remove this clause, there is no tight valve to hold hands that may wish to privatize the steel company. So it is important we retain. If we are going to make amendment on item 9, we can still make amendment at what stage can President declare can this bill be said to be over? I think it's very important. Let us look at this issue.
Just deleting clause 7. Because if you have a less charitable president, he can, mind you, the plan is just 98% completed, just 2%. So he can declare it completed within a week. And then this law is now rendered useless, even when the plan has not been completed. So clause 9 is even very dangerous as it is. So something has to be done. And I think 7 gives us that protection, but we need to add a proviso to 9 as well. Yes, it can't be just on the date that the president says it's completed, then the law becomes obsolete. They can declare this law obsolete in the next 3 weeks after it's been passed. Honorable Zachary, what's the amendment?
Number 9 should read that in consult with the parliament.
Honorable Dr. M.S. Abdul.
Mr. Chairman, we can delete that 7, but it will be not just completion, but completion and running. Because then in which case this particular bill, which once it becomes an act, I mean, it's a life of its own. But if you just say completion, then your thesis that 98% is complete. But we have to say and running. Otherwise, it will be the most uncharitable president that will come and say something is completed and while it is not.
I think Clock 9 should read the bill.
Let's sort out 7. 7, clause 7. Then we can move to 9.
This to move, provided that subject the project is completed, that one is should be transferred to clause 9. Now clause 9 can read, we delete part of clause 7 and is seen to have begun production at a significant stage. That particular portion of clause 7 should be transferred to clause 9. So that clause 9 will read, this shall remain in force up until the completion of the Ajakuta Steel Company project and is seen to have begun production in a very significant stage. So I'm amending clause 7 to delete part of clause 7 and move it to clause 9.
What was proposed is that we should move the proviso in clause 7 to clause 9. Sorry.
Then the first part of clause 7 is naked on its own, and it's dangerous. That means they can concession anytime.
Even the word significant stage is neither here nor there. Who determines what is significant? You would have put a percentage, maybe attain 70%, 80% capacity utilization or something. So you say significant. Where is 50% here? Oh, that's the significant stage, 50%. Okay. Honorable Bonta, please.
Thank you, Chairman. In the first instance, the aim this bill seeks to cure, or the ill this bill seeks to cure, is completion of Ajakuta. We are now also thinking of adding other issues. Chairman, I think that it is safer to retain and amend clause 7 by adding may. It's also safer to add to clause 9 a valve that will not let Mr. President do what is not rational. And we can only do that by saying that this bill shall remain in force up to the completion of the Ajakuta Steel Company and seem to be running to capacity of so as we may agree. But deleting clause 7 will render the bill naked. I therefore think that if you read clause 7 conjunctively very well, significant state means above 50%. Except
above 50% of what?
Significant state means above 50%
of what?
Of capacity using. He said of production at a very significant stage. We do not mean completion, as a production. So you can see the say, well, we can redraft it better, but deleting it entirely will leave the entire bill naked. As to clause 9, the bill will not run, or the act will not run for eternity. Therefore, we can also add a proviso as an valve to say, Mr. President can declare this only when we have achieved social capacity utilization. These are the only two things we will put and have it done. Otherwise, the desire and the intendment of us doing this will have been defeated. Thank you, Chairman.
Good progress.
Sorry?
What you have suggested, can we put it now and carry it and move on?
In 7, I will redraft by saying that Ajakuta Steel may, like introduced, the may means after when you insert may, it will take care of all what we are saying. Other words like production at a very significant stage appears ambiguous, but it's definable. But then that of 9 we can also say the bill may remain in force.
Mr. Speaker, Chairman, sir, I have stood up to support those who are of the view that we delete 7 so that in redrafting 9, because it has, some of us have contributed to 9, in redrafting 9, then we take care of all the concerns in 9. It's not an issue of redrafting. It's take care of, because what is the harm that we're running away from, or the mischief that we're trying to cure by enacting clause 7? All that mischief can be enacted in clause 9 by just elegant drafting, Chairman. So we can
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I still remain Engineer Solomon Maren. I represent Mangu Bokos in Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose that on Section 7, we remove the word shall and put may, and leave it at that. Then on 9, we can now say that this bill shall remain in force up till the completion of the Ajakuta Steel Company project on such a date so declared by the President on attaining a significant production stage. Finish. We have already defined significant stage. That is 50% and above.
Concession without production.
Significant stage means 50% and above. So once you do that, that's all. But if you remove 7, it means that you are saying that the project cannot be concession at all. And so that becomes very difficult, that we need to amend other laws so that we can meet that provision. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think we have found a solution. There appears to be a solution. So, Secunda, one of our Bonta. Can you talk to your mic, speak to your mic?
I remain Uzaman Kimabonta. I support the amendment. Ably moved. I so second.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. So clause 7 as amended, carried. Carried. Clause 8 carried. Clause 9 as amended, carried. Clause 9 is amended already. And the amendment is perfect.
May be declared by the President. I thought we too should have some kind of power there, because if you say President, like you earlier said, what stops the President from saying?
The amendment by Marin was that, sorry, oh really? Then thou shalt stop confusing people. No, you can't leave. He said the Ajakuta Steel Company may be concessioned. So that means that after the completion, if the government so decide to run it, they can run it. If they decide to concession, they can concession. But he said that the project will, after it has been completed and seen to have begun production at a very significant stage, that is when the government can think of concessioning, privatizing, whatever they want to do with it. Then clause 9, he amended it as saying this bill shall remain in force up until the completion of Ajakuta Steel Company project on such date so declared by the President on attaining a significant production stage, which is defined to be 50% capacity utilization in the interpretation section of the bill. So that takes care of all our fears and concern. So we've carried 9 as amended. Interpretation carried. Honorable Yinka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're back again to clause 7 as amended. The definition of significant stage in clause 10 is incomplete. Significant stage means 50%. 50% of what? Are we saying 50% of installed capacity? Or 50% of, if you read the clause, you'll understand what I'm saying. That's why I'm taking us back to clause 7. Provision of clause 7 says, provided the project is completed and is seen to have begun production. There are issues with that, but we've gone past provision 7, so there's no problem with that. At a very significant stage. Because of the fact that significant stage is subjective, in the wisdom of the drafters, we've tried to define what a significant stage will be. Now, if we say significant stage means 50%, what is, are we saying 50% of completion? Because it is in respect of completion. So I believe that the intention of the drafters is to want to say that it should be seen to have started production, to be completed, and is producing at a significant stage. But it says 50%. It's idle and naked if you just stand at 50%. So it should be 50% of installed capacity, or production capacity. That's what is missing. And that's what I seek to add, Mr. Chairman.
But Gamma is too much, I beg. We are not looking for loan. So I thought you just move for the amendment and then we'll put the question. You already know that we're talking about production, no completion. At this level, the plan must have been completed. Already it's 98% installed. So we can't be talking about 50% of installation, but at least capacity utilization. Even that 50% I think is low.
They say above. They say above.
What is above 50%? So that's 51%. What's the difference? Even 55%, what's the difference between 55 and 50? Above can be 50.01%.
Yes.
So I think we should raise the threshold a bit. So Yinka, raise the threshold and then move your amendment that it should be that percentage of its installed capacity.
Thank you, Chairman. May I move that we amend clause 10 by adding to the definition of significant stage to read as follows. Significant stage means producing at above 70% of installed capacity. Installed production capacity. I so move. Oh, 75. Above 70. Okay. No.
Yes. Honorable Keita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Ahmed Keita. I rise to second the amendment ably moved by Honorable Winkaji as so second.
Honorable Bonta.
We are trying to set a high jump that's not even achievable in any part of the world. Can you tell me any company of this type that performs optimally up to 60-70%? Yes. Anywhere, tell me.
Yes. You don't need that. Abonta.
Yes.
Chairman, rule Abonta out of.
No, a question has been raised which is very germane. On the average, I don't know who is an industrialist here, at what percentage are most companies operating in Nigeria, most of our industries? Do we have some that have reached 80, 90%? Honorable Johnson Oguma.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remain Honorable Johnson Oguma from Metako Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am agreeing with the amendment, but that the percentage will come down to capacity of 50. Because let me explain something. Any single percentage above 50, politics will set in. Listen to me, let me explain. By the time we get to 50, and any percentage above 50, Nigerians will be attracted to that company to the extent that everybody wants to send in one worker or the other, to the extent that the essence of this bill will be defeated. Install capacity, install productive capacity 50 is okay. Nigerian breweries operate at 69. This is a government-owned company.
Honorable Johnson, what a bad example. You can see that the leader is cobbling you in your own words. Magbila, I'm not aware you own even a rice thresher. I don't think you have one, so I don't know what do you want us to take your advice. Any industrialist here, I think I'll go with the Ogun man. At least Abara is in Ogun State.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Adekunle Abdulkabir Akilade. Honorable Chair, Chairman, I'm of the view, sir, that based on what I've seen in Ogun State and from the revenue perspective, most private companies do over, for them to remain in business, they must do over 60%. Now, they don't declare that much for tax purposes. When they tell you they are running under capacity over 45% and 5%, it's for tax purposes, because they know that if they tell you they are doing 70, 80, they have to pay more. So what we're saying in this regard, that as a government company, we should not do anything less than 60%. Let's do nothing less than 60%. The purpose of this bill is to make sure that they don't rush to concession it. So we must keep it as long as we can. We have the best hands that can run this facility. Let it remain that way, and let everybody set that target for 60%, and I know it's achievable, Mr. Chairman. It's achievable, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Right Honorable Chairman. My dear colleagues, I think I want to support His Excellency that we put it at 60%. His Excellency. So are you challenging that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 60%, sir.
Honorable Nena Okeji.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I'd like to leave it at 70, and the reason for that is that when we think about all the other industries in Nigeria, the challenges that they face, these ones don't face. They're not seeking funds. Mr. Chairman, they have free funds. They have government subvention. They have tax breaks. Mr. Chairman, I do not believe they generate their own power. So all the things that would make all the other industries lose optimal production, we have provided for them free of charge. And I'm thinking that if the thought is for us to raise the bar, then I think 70, not less than 70% is fair enough for everything that they're getting. Yes.
It's on the floor, take a vote on it and move on a beg. 70%, what information on Honorable Kamale?
Mr. Chairman, let us consider the working environment of industry. I've worked in industry. There are many factors. Even if the plant is okay, there are many factors that you cannot attain 50% production with. For example, the raw materials. For example, the electricity supply. For example, the market. So, Mr. Chairman, if we say 60%, it's going to be a problem. Because the plants themselves, Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying, the percentage depends on the environment of operation. For instance, there's a problem of raw materials. So 50% is ideal, because if we exceed 50%, it's going to be difficult to attain it. Because there are a lot of factors.
Take off your mind, please. I'll just put the question on the 70, because like Nena rightly pointed out, they have installed capacity of electricity of 110 megawatts. They can power the entirety of Kogi and Edo states, so they don't need light. They have the mines at Itakwe, Everything is there. The railway is there. Jetty is there. Everything is there, plus free money. So if they can't attend up to that, can someone concession something, a concessionaire at 50% and make profit from running of the place? So I put a question. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. So clause 9 as amended, or clause 10 as amended, carried. Clause 11 short title, explanatory memoranda. I hope others will not be as engaging as this one. Because that, yeah, is very important because subject to a lot of bashing from all quarters. So the second is report number 9. Don't worry, the House is in a very good mood. Which is, which report is that one?
Public enterprises.
Okay, this one is on the bill for an act to amend the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act, Chapter 38 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to review the list of enterprises to be privatized and for related matters. Honorable Abonta, this one in 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chairman. This is just a very simple bill, and the bill seeks to delete the line or the word Ajokuta company from the powers under the Act as among the list. That is to delete from the list the first schedule of the Principal Act is amended by in Part 1 by deleting Ajokuta Steel Company Limited under the steel and aluminum sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Straightforward one. So clause 1 carried, clause 2 carried, clause 3 carried, explanatory memoranda carried. We're done. Move to report number 10. On which one? Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we need to assist the drafter of this motion. I mean, this bill. Because if you look at it, it's not properly. That's why we had all the issues we had. And I've asked him why this is not like his handwork. And he says hunger. So we need to help him, sir. Yeah? We need to help him so he will be doing it. But you know, he is always coming up with reports to be considered. So we need to assist him, please. It's a plea so that we won't be wasting this kind of time. Because what he drafted was not really very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't know. When we see him staggering and collapsing, then we now know that he's hungry. Then we can apply remedy. But for now, he looks very, very robust and very healthy. So, conference committee on the bill for an act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and for related matters. Honorable Victor, please. 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable colleagues, the conference committee met and
Please, my dear colleagues, for purpose of the recorders here, every time you stand up to speak, introduce yourself so that it will be captured. Don't just assume that everybody knows you. For the purpose of, no.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, my name remains Honorable Victor Nwokolo, member representing Ika Northeast, Ika South, Federal Constituency of Delta State. Like I said earlier, the conference committee met and the area of differences were observed. If you check the report before you, the areas are Section 4, Subsection 6, Section 6, Section 19.3, 26E, 36.1A, 38F, 43.2, 41F, 47.1C, 56.1B, 65, Subsection 3, 95.5, and 121. In the case of Subsection 4.6, the Senate version, we adopted the Senate version, which talks about the location of the headquarters, that the headquarters of the Nigerian Petroleum Regulatory Commission shall be located in Abuja. Then Section 6, we also adopted the Senate version, that is to renumber them and adopt, because ours was properly numbered, theirs had some minor issues. That takes us to Section 19. In that same Section 19 also, we adopted the Senate version. That's the Section 19 talks about issue of vacancy. Section 19.3. That's where the vacancy exists. If a member of the board dies, resigns, or otherwise vacates his office before the expiration of the term for which he has been appointed, there shall be appointed a fit and a proper person in the manner prescribed by Section 13 of the bill to take his place on the board. We adopted the Senate version. Then 26, Section 26(2)E. Last page 16 of the report before you. The fees charged for sale of data acquired by the Commission. That's on page 16. We adopted the Senate version. That Section 36(1). We adopted the Senate version, which reads, there shall be established the Petroleum Equalization Fund, the Equalization Fund into which shall be paid all monies payable to the Equalization Fund. Ours was not, we adopted the Senate version by way of 5% fuel levy. Their own was specific, putting the particular amount the levy that we done. It wasn't containing ours, so we adopted that of the Senate version. Then 38F, we adopted the House version. Okay.
So, honorable colleagues, just the report, the summary of the report and the gist of it is that we passed the bills, both Senate and the House passed the bills, but with about 13 differences. And our conference committee have met and resolved those differences. What we do at this stage is just a mere formality of agreeing with them to give it legislative passage. So the question is that we approve the recommendations of the conference committee on the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Finish. So, we move to report number 11, which is report of the Conference Committee on Bill for an Act to amend the Public Procurement Act. Honorable Wale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My fellow colleagues, we have a very clean copy of the conference committee report on a bill to amend the Public Procurement Act. Mr. Speaker, privilege section 1 sub 2 has to do with the composition of the council and who should be the chairman. The Minister of Finance, Tato, used to be the chairman of the council, but we believe that as a procurer herself, she cannot be a judge in our own court. Hence the amendment. Mr. Speaker, if you also look at Section 5, there were new items introduced to further empower the Bureau vis-a-vis their functions. And Section 15, Mr. Speaker, borders on application of the law to both parastatals. Initially, there was an error made, including the Parliament, and when we consider practices across the climb in the US, we discovered that the Parliament actually sets up its own independent procurement system, ditto the judiciary. Hence the amendment, Mr. Speaker. So I want to urge my colleagues to please adopt this conference report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So in the two bills passed by both houses, there were 9 differences which have been resolved, some in favor of the House provisions, some in Senate. And the motion before us is that we adopt the report of our conference committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Next, I think it's this National Institute for Credit Administration, but there are 212. One talk about financial. Okay, the next bill is the one on the...
The financial.
It's a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, a central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies and other relevant authorities and for related matters, 2017. Honorable Kayode will give us the synopsis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Kayode Oladile. I represent Imekwa from Yewa North Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I'm from Ogun State. Mr. Speaker, we have just 2 sections to be corrected here. Section 25. Initially, when we agreed, we resolved that provisions should not be made directly in the bill. Rather, it should be reserved for the minister in charge, supervisory minister to have, who come by way of instrument. But we have decided, Mr. Speaker, to now include specific provisions for penalties in the law. To that extent, Section 25, 1A and B, we have agreed to to put there, Section A, for individual violation, 200,000 naira for every day that it persists, and for corporate entity, a sum of 1 million naira for every day it persists. And in the minor amendment, also in Section 27, there was a typographical error where we wanted to say Sections 2, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 13 of the Money Laundering Act. The typographical error was put in Section 1 erroneously. So we have deleted Section 1, and that's just the amendment there and the correction there. Just to delete Section 1 from it, and that's all. So those are the 2 sections we intend to report to the House. Thank you.
A conference committee as well, so we'll just go on and take the question and move on. But what about aspect of the bills that refer to the agency as commission? Have we resolved those ones?
No, it never referred to the agency at the commission. Section 1, this section 27, says that anywhere there is a commission in the Money Laundering Act, we never referred to NFIU as a commission. Never. Not at all. So we are just, and that is the section 1 I'm talking about. It's been deleted now. Yes, and that's okay.
In the 25B, 25 subsection B, so in the case of an entity to a fine of ₦1,000,000, is it of $1,000,000 or what is that quantum of million they are talking about?
The people that prepared it, that was not what we said. 1 million naira we said. 1 million naira. Sure, we should make it 1 million. Yes. We should make it 1 million.
Oh, it's just a one-page report. You don't have copies? Just one page. So it's 1 million. Clerk's note, and ensure that it's in the Senate version so that we don't come back this way again, please. Okay. So the motion is that we adopt our conference committee report. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next report is a bill for an act to establish National Institute of Credit Administration for matters connected therewith. Who is briefing us? Who is the sponsor of the bill? Okay. Rules and Business Chairman.
So, Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues, may I have an idea so to know whether we can go on with this one, or who have or do not have copies of a copy of this particular report? Because this National Institute of Credit Administration, who doesn't have a copy of this bill? I don't know. Okay, so, okay, Mr. Speaker, this is slightly different from the rest of the bills which I'll be taking. This one is one of those bills that were taken, rescinded from the committees to the committee of the whole. Now, the next 11 bills, if you allow me to just take everything to save time, the next 11 bills are bills which were passed by the National Assembly, forwarded to the presidency for assent, but before the presidency could act on them, the clerk of the National Assembly observed some inadequacies, slight inadequacies, and requested that they be returned for consideration in the committee of the whole. So this one is the major one. Now the remaining one, the 11 I'm referring to, that were retrieved from the presidency, what you see are only those areas of concern. It's not the whole bill coming back to the committee of the whole this time. It's only those areas of concern that you have, on the sheet that have been distributed to you. So know that in each case, only those relevant areas that we'll be considering this evening, Mr. Speaker. So this one, I urge my dear colleagues to take a dispassionate look at this, the establishment of the National Institute of Credit Administration and for matters connected therewith. The provisions of the bill are on the left side, the committee of the whole recommendation on the middle. I therefore passionately appeal that you consider and pass the recommendations here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we'll take this one clause by clause. Okay, it's a fresh bill. So, our honorable colleagues, we go to clause 1, carried. Clause 2, carried. Clause 3, functions of the institute, carried. Clause 4, Requirement of license or credit management consulting practice carried. Clause 5 carried. Clause 6 carried. Clause 7 carried. This thing is not well arranged at all. Clause 8 carried. Clause 9 carried. Clause 10 carried. Clause 11 carried. Clause 12. Clause 13, publication of register and list of corrections carried. Clause 14 carried. Clause 15 carried. Clause 16 carried. Clause 17, joint signatory carried. Clause 18 carried. Clause 19 carried. Clause 20 carried. Clause 21 carried. This is badly arranged. Clause 21 carried. 22, 23, 24. Even though I haven't seen 24 myself. 24 carried. 25, 26, 27, interpretation 27, 28 short title carried, schedule carried. What again? Explanatory, second schedule carried. Do we have any other schedule?
Third schedule.
Is there third schedule?
No, I'm going third schedule, sir. On page 37.
Third schedule? Yes, I've seen it. Explanatory memorandum carried. Long title. Disposed of. We move to the next bill, which is a bill for an act to regulate the franchised business in Nigeria and for related matters, 2018. Rules of business.
Mr. Chairman, I thought my explanation had sufficed, that all the 11 bills have been returned from the presidency to take a second look at them because of the inadequacies that were noticed. The president has not vetoed them. It's the National Assembly itself that felt it should be corrected before the president will take a look at it. So it's back here. All the reports that are available, only those areas concerned have been produced. It's not the entire bills that are here again. So I urge not this one, not just this one, but the remaining 11 bills, 10 bills in addition to this one, we should go through it and approve the recommendations as been corrected.
These are very simple issues. The bills that were transmitted to the executive were sent, but in which so many embarrassing mistakes, some typos, some what they call provisions that are not in consonant with the provision of the Constitution. So a team of lawyers from the House, the Senate management sat with lawyers from the presidency and cleaned these bills up to ensure that there are no embarrassing mistakes in them. And the reports are before us. I think it's on all these 11 bills. So I'll just put the questions and we move on. So on the bill for an act to regulate the franchise business in Nigeria for related matters, the question is that we adopt the recommendations as contained here for deletion, for substitution, and the rest. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. We'll carry this, your suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, this idea of sending the bills and then recalling them for correction, I think we have to work harmoniously with the legal department so that before we transmit finally, they look at it and we make all necessary corrections before we send. Because it can be very embarrassing. We send something, even if you look at the law itself, we don't have any power to do that. So I think we should have a way of synergizing with the legal department so that before it's finally transmitted to the presidency, we look at all of these things and then come back to resolve it.
That has been done, so it's not a problem at all. But sometimes, no matter how diligent you are, the truth is that some errors can slip in. And if you realize that there are errors contained in a bill, I don't think there's any specific law that says we cannot withdraw a bill that has been sent for assent. There's no provision of law like that in the Constitution. Because the aim is to do it well, not just to have a law. So when we realize that there are mistakes, we will make sure that the mistakes are corrected, so that even if assent is not given, if we're so determined to override the veto, we can do that. So we move to the next bill, which is a bill for an act to establish a Nigerian Academy of Science to promote the growth, acquisition, and dissemination of scientific knowledge to facilitate the use of science as a solution to problems of national interest and for related matters. This one is just one item. Just one item that is there. The correction is one item. So the question is that we adopt the recommendation of the committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2018. This one has a few amendments, just about two issues there that they're asking us to delete. So the motion is that we adopt the recommendation of the committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is an act to provide for corporate manslaughter by making corporate organizations criminally liable for death of employees rising from their acts of omission and for related matters. This one, they are not, the corrections are not so fundamental, and the motion before us is that we adopt the recommendation of this committee on the bill. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. We'll take one eye. This one has just been taken. Corporate manslaughter. Okay. Next is on the bill for an act to establish the National Child Protection and Enforcement Agency to provide necessary protection and care for the Nigerian children for related matters. Motion before us is that we adopt the recommendations of the committee that cleaned up the bill. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is Bill for an Act to establish the Federal Capital Territory Civil Service Commission charged with the responsibility for appointment, promotion, and discipline of staff and employees in the civil service of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and for related matters. Few alterations and deletions as well. Motion before us is that we adopt the recommendation of this committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Science. Next is an act to establish the Animal Health Husbandry Technologies Registration Board of Nigeria to regulate the practice of animal health and husbandry technologies in Nigeria and for related matters. Just 3 amendments to what we passed. Caution is that we adopt the recommendation of the committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Next is an act to establish the National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which provides the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions and for related matters. Few amendments, few alterations and deletions. The motion before us is that we adopt the recommendations of the committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. There's a bill. Next, consideration of bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief, Chapter 117 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 to increase the capital expenditure for companies applying for pioneer status under the provisions of this bill and for related matters. So this one follows the other one. Chairman rules and
Speaker number what? It's not on the order paper, that's why. Oh, supplementary, okay. Yes. Yes, the supplementary. No, there's a supplementary order paper. Huh? No, it's here.
Finish. We have a bill for an act to repeal the Consumer Protection Act, Chapter C, 25 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, establish the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and the Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal for the development and promotion of fair, efficient, and competitive markets in the Nigerian economy, facilitate access by all citizens to safe products, secure the protection of rights for all consumers in Nigeria and for related matters. So there are a few alterations that related to thresholds and approval of mergers. So I'll put the question. Those in favor of the motion that we adopt the report of the committee say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it. Now, Chairman, that appears to have sorted out the 11 bills. Sorry. No. That marks the end of the 11 that were withdrawn. Okay, so we've considered all. Number 16.
It's on postgraduate, National Postgraduate College of Medical Laboratory.
No, did we do that? You are sure? Well, let's err on the side of caution. So we take it again, even if we have done it. Which one is that? Postgraduate? Okay, a bill for an act to establish National Postgraduate College of Medical Lab Science to conduct professional postgraduate examination of candidates into various specialized branches of medical lab science and for related matters. There too, I think few amendments were made, and I put the question that the motion that will accept or adopt the recommendations of the committee. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. So that marks the end of the 11 bills, except the supplements, which we have taken that the whip doesn't know anything about. You were not in the house last week. We have these bills on ease of doing business, and our commitment is to get them out as soon as possible. Because, so that was why we insisted that we have to take it, so that by the time we go on Easter holiday, the bill will be making its way to the president for signature, for assent. So, it's on the bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act, Chapter 117, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to increase the capital expenditure for companies applying for pioneer status under the provisions of this bill and for related matters. It was debated just last week, and Chairman rules, is there anything? It's 1 to 2 line amendments, nothing more than that.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think you have said it all because of the importance of this bill. So, because of what the importance of this bill, I urge my colleagues to vote this bill so that we'll send it over to have the ease of doing business, so that then we be proud to speak on our foreign this is way of.
The Ease of Doing Business Committee comprises of legislators. I think I'm even a member, and we have 3 other members of the House and even senators representing the National Assembly and the Council. So, I don't even have it here. So, what are we carrying? So, there are 2 line amendments, really. So carried. So write the recommendations. I think we're done. Any more business? Okay, Chairman rules and business because the leader is not around.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to move that the House do revert back to plenary to report progress. I so move.
Carried. Oladele.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to support the motion that the House bring back to the House. I so second.
Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. The House hereby reverts to plenary. honorable colleagues will take the report. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the bill for Act to provide for the Ajakuta Steel Company Completion Fund for speedy completion of the project and for related matters, and approve Clause 1, approve Clauses 2 and 3 as amended, approve Clause 4 to 6, approve Clause 7 as amended, approve Clause 8, approve Clauses 9 and 10 as amended, approve Clause 11, the explanatory memorandum, and the long title of the bill. The House and the Committee of Whole considered the report on the bill for an act to amend the Public Enterprises Privatization and Commercialization Act, Chapter P 38, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to review the list of enterprises to be privatized and for related matters, and approve Clauses 1 to 3, explanatory memorandum, and long title of the bill. The House and the Committee of Whole considered the report of the Conference Committee on Bill for an Act to provide for the governance and institutional framework for the petroleum industry and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the Conference Committee. The House and the Committee of Whole considered a report of the Conference Committee on Public Procurement Act Amendment Bill 2018 and adopted the recommendations of the report therein. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered a report on Bill for an Act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit as a central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security, and intelligence agencies and other relevant authorities for related matters, and adopted recommendations therein. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered a report of Bill for an Act to establish National Institute of Credit Administration and for related matters, and approve Clauses 1 to 28, schedules, explanatory memoranda, and the long title of the bill. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered a report on Bill for an Act to regulate the franchise business in Nigeria and for related matters, and approved or adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of the Whole considered the report on the bill for an act to establish the Forest Research Institute of Nigeria for related matters and adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House in the Committee of Whole considered the report of bill for an act to establish National Postgraduate College of Medical Lab Science to conduct professional postgraduate examination of candidates into various specialized branches of medical lab sciences and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the committee. House and the Committee of Whole considered a report on a bill for an act to establish National Postgraduate College of Medical Lab Science. This is a repetition of what I just took. The House and the Committee of the Whole consider a report on the bill for an act to establish a Nigerian Academy of Science to promote the growth, acquisition, and dissemination of scientific knowledge and facilitate the use of science, the solution to problems of Nigeria of national interest, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of the Whole consider a report on bill for an act to provide for corporate manslaughter by making corporate organizations criminally liable for death of employees arising from their acts of omission, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of Whole consider a report on bill for an act to establish National Assembly Budget and Research Office, which provides the National Assembly with objective, timely, and non-partisan analysis needed for economic and budget decisions, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of the Whole consider a report on bill for an act to establish Federal Capital Territory Civil Service Commission, charged with the responsibility for appointment, promotion, and discipline of staff and employees in the civil service of Federal Capital Territory Abuja, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of the Whole consider a report on bill for an act to establish Animal Health Husbandry Technologies Registration Board of Nigeria to regulate practice of animal health and husbandry technologies in Nigeria, and for related matters adopted the recommendations of the committee. The House and the Committee of Whole consider a report on the bill for an act to repeal the Consumer Protection Act, Chapter C, 25 laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. Establish a Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and the Competition and Consumer Protection Tribunal for the development and promotion of fair, efficient, and competitive markets in the Nigerian economy, facilitate access by all citizens to safe products, secure the protection of rights for all consumers in Nigeria, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations therein. The House and the Committee of the Whole consider a report on the bill for an act to amend the Industrial Development Income Tax Relief Act, Chapter 1.17, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, to increase the capital expenditure for companies applying for pioneer status under the provisions of this bill, and for related matters, and adopted the recommendations therein. Chairman Rules and Business move that we adopt for the adoption.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to be clear that we are not leaving something. Number 20, I missed. Mr. Speaker? Huh? Mr. Speaker,
yes, Chairman Rules. Yes. Then?
It's 21.
No, it's not 21.
It's 21.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the House do adopt the resolutions on all the report considered in the Committee of the Whole. I so move.
Acting Leader.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, my name is Mohamed Tari Monguno. I represent Marke Monguno, Gaza Federal Constituency. I hereby support the motion as ably moved by the Chairman, Rules and Business.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. Ayes have it. Acting Leader.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I hereby move that the House do adjourn to Thursday, 29th of March 2018 by 11 a.m. I so move.
Rules and Business.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion for adjournment as moved by the acting leader of the House. I so second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. The ayes have it.